You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, brought to you by Global Convenience Store Focus, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience, fuels, and mobility retail industry. Welcome to the Future of Convenience podcast. I'm Carolyn Schnare, and I'm joined by my co-host, Harry Milloff, who is the CEO of the Moseley Group. Hey, Harry, how you doing?
Hey, Carolyn, how are you?
I'm doing great. Well, today we're going to continue our conversation about foodvenience that we've been having over the last several episodes. And we're talking with the founder of iconic global brand Wingstop. And today we're going to talk about the elements that make for a delicious combination of fast, quality, and memorable food, and maybe some complimentary items too. So today, Harry, you and I are going to wing it, and we're going to talk with Antonio Swad. Before we get started, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
Oh, not again. This fridge keeps breaking down. The ingredients are warm, and now we've got waste. Again!
Yeah, and we're slowing down because we're constantly running to the walk-in to grab fresh stock.
Sounds like you need a Dande drawers.
A Dande?
Yeah, they keep food at the perfect temperature, even with constant openings. No more food waste, no more frequent breakdowns, and they save on energy too.
So we save time, energy, costs and food waste as well as an overall smoother service. Sounds perfect.
Tired of unreliable refrigeration? Upgrade to a Dande because your convenience store deserves better. A Dande, refrigeration perfected.
Harry, normally we do these podcasts totally remote, and you and I are in different computers on different sides of the East Coast of the U.S., but today it looks like you're in the same room as our guest. So where are you, and who is that sitting next to you?
Yes, it's very fun to be in person today. I'm excited to introduce Antonio. You know, Antonio and I had the opportunity to connect just a few weeks ago here in Dallas, Texas. We were at a YPO event speaking. And, you know, I heard Antonio talk about his career and just the journey that he's been on. And it's really incredible. It was especially cool to hear about the beginnings of what is today considered, you know, one of the fastest growing and most successful QSRs in the world, Wingstop. So, yes, you heard that right. We are speaking with the founder of Wingstop today. More recently, Antonio has founded a business, Buzz Brands, which is a line of future-thinking food and beverage products geared specifically to convenience stores. Antonio, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. I can't thank you enough for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you and more importantly, to learn. You know, I've been trying to learn this convenience industry, and teaching an old dog new tricks. It's tough sometimes, but I'm learning along the way. I'm going to learn today.
Well, it's awesome. I mean, that's really why we are doing this series of foodvenience podcasts, really because, you know, there's so much that convenience operators can learn from restaurateurs and QSR specialists and vice versa. I think that there's so much for restaurateurs to be learning from the convenience store industry. And so it's a great, I think there's going to be a lot of takeaways from today's meeting for all the listeners. So just to kick things off, I'm curious, you know, what inspired you to create Wingstop? And if you don't mind just sharing some of the early challenges that you face as you're getting this brand going.
Well, I was in the pizza business, and, you know, people think that, oh, pizza and wings go together. Well, I didn't see it that way. I saw it as a standalone opportunity to create a concept where wings were at the center of the plate. And many, many detractors would say, oh, that's an appetizer. You know, you'll never make a living selling nothing but chicken wings. I heard that time and time again. And of course, we've proved that wrong. You absolutely can. And I went to visit a restaurateur friend of mine in Atlanta, Georgia. And he took me to a place with the odd name of Taco Mac. It makes you think they're going to sell tacos, but their number one product was wings. And when I saw how many people would order nothing but chicken wings, and it got me thinking. And then I started developing this concept around aviation themed decor, primarily carry out. I wanted to position the concept as more of an adult concept, so included the sale of beer. Just not because we sold a lot of beer, because it was a concept positioner, and developed proprietary flavors, sauces that couldn't be purchased from a food salesman that walks in your door. And I think that was the equity that we put into the project at the very beginning is paying dividends even yet today.
Super cool. It's interesting. Fried chicken is one of the most popular hot food items that we see in the convenience industry. It's widely offered across the world, and we talk a lot about efficiency and how to standardize operations. Here on this show, and I'm curious, just, what are some of the ways that you developed? And I'm sure that there was a lot of refinements and tweaks kind of as you were growing. But something that impresses me so much about Wingstop is how it's so standardized. It's something that you can really create consistent experiences. And today, for those that are unaware, Wingstop is over 2,500 locations globally, and so that's kind of scale. What are some of the ways that you developed these types of standards and operations that create that level of consistency?
Harry, I was thinking about this a while back when I knew we were going to do this. And I got to thinking that a lot of the same things that you have to put in place when you're developing a concept that you're going to grow through franchisee are some of the exact same challenges that convenience store operators face too, by trying to integrate a food platform into their store. You have to, it's great to have a lot of ideas, but they all have to be executed, and it has to be trainable. And you need to take a lot of the more complex portions of the operation out of the store. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. When we first opened the very first Wingstop, the manager and I would cook the sauces on a 4-eye burner stove in the store. Literally cook the sauces down and reduce them and add the seasonings, because these were all custom made sauces. It was, as I said earlier, nothing out of a book. And but I knew that that's not going to work. Obviously, if you're going to grow through franchising, which is a challenge enough, you definitely take people with not necessarily aptitude for the restaurant industry, and they have to learn to execute this concept at a pretty high level, so the consistency is always there. I think a lot of those same challenges exist for the convenience store operator. That's the parallel that I draw. You rely on standardization, procedures that are standardized, and whenever you can rely on a particular piece of equipment that might take some of the error out of the process, you have to do that too. So the first thing that we did before we opened store number 2 was get the sauces manufactured offsite, and they were more of a pour and go sauce than it was how we did it in the early days, cooking it down. That would never work.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a brilliant example, and those sauces have such unique flavors and taste profiles. Were you developing those recipes initially, and is that a kind of trial and error approach, or do you have a culinary background? How did that? Sauces can be tricky.
Yeah, they can be, and this word craveable, we hear it all the time, and it's kind of overused sometimes, and some people will say something is craveable and it's really not. But I'll say this. I think Wingstop flavor profiles to this day, it's the original craveable food. You cannot reproduce that flavor profile without those specific sauces. And the thing that I loved about getting into the chicken wing business is the deep fat fry process is not one that you could reproduce easily in your home either. And if you fried anything in your house, you smell it for the next 2 or 3 days, because we're not set up at home necessarily to do deep fat frying the way that we did in Wingstop. So that was an advantage going in. The taste profile couldn't be reproduced, or the process couldn't easily be reproduced, and I think that was part of the reason for the concept success.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think a lot of convenience stores are in a good way starting to struggle with is the eat-in versus the takeout concept. And I know that was important to you when you first, as I read somewhere, then your first restaurants is you wanted people to eat in the store, but there was also a takeout component. I think there is a big takeout component too. My son, he's 16 years old and an absolute diehard Wingstop fan. I think I might actually be his hero today, just for today, because I'm interviewing you. But we'll see
Smart
how
boy.
I'm going to use that to my advantage for a while. Yeah, of course. And but he at 16 is using Uber Eats, sometimes against my even knowledge. It just shows up, and that's, using third-party takeout, everything like that. So it goes into a very different dynamic of how you prepare that food. But my question, I guess, going back to that is, how did you standardize it in such a way that eating in was just as delicious as taking out?
Well, it was designed predominantly as takeout food. And one of the nice things about it, the wings, they package easily. Now, all fried food isn't as good 30 minutes after it comes out of the fryer, or 20 minutes, as it is 5 minutes. This is kind of a thing that happens to fried food, particularly if you want it to remain crisp. But the volume that we wanted to do couldn't have been done with 22 seats. I mean, if you had people in those seats from open to close, you weren't going to achieve the volume without the carry-out component. And the carry-out was more than 70-80% of the volume of the original store. And it was designed that way. Sometimes you'd have nobody sitting in the dining room, but you'd have a line of people picking up the food to take it out. So to be able to do the kind of volume that we did in the footprint that we had, there's a ratio there for success. Every concept has certain ratios that I think you have to pay attention to. Sales per square foot is one of those ratios. Sales amount of volume you can do per labor hour used is another one of those tools that I would always use to measure how well the restaurant is doing. And the concept of Wingstop is a winner in both of those categories. You can do disproportionately high volumes for the amount of labor used and the amount of space that you occupy. So that's one of the reasons that I still think it's the greatest restaurant concept ever invented.
Well, I've had the opportunity to work in hundreds of different restaurant concepts, and one thing that really sticks out to me on Wingstop is just how simple the menu is. It's very focused, and I would imagine over the years people have come to you and said, why don't you have a cheeseburger, or what about a salad, or things like that. And it's something that we talk about in the convenience industry quite a lot. There is commonly a desire to offer something for everyone and have a broad sense of variety that's great and wonderful, but at times it also leads to a lot of complexity, both operational complexity, but also complexity in the eyes of the customer, where they might be coming and saying, what should I get here? There's a deer in the headlights when they look at the menu board at times. And I'm just curious, how did you remain so focused over these years?
Well, it's tough. It's especially tough at the very beginning, because when we opened the first store, it didn't start off, boom, we line out the door. It was far from that. There was a lot of lonely times in there. And then you'd get a customer to walk in and they'd look at the menu board and they'd say, oh man, do you have any chicken sandwiches? I'd really like a chicken sandwich. Well, no, we don't have chicken sandwiches. Oh, okay. They turn around and walk out. And you're desperate to do sales and get this thing off the ground. And you start to think, oh man, maybe I should have a chicken sandwich, right? But the customer that mentioned that didn't understand all the things necessary to add just one more item. Same thing with you wanted to add a salad. Mm-hmm. It'd be great to have some salads, but salad prep and then the waste and keeping it fresh and the rotation, people don't understand that. So it's tough at times, particularly of an unproven concept, not achieving the volume that you imagined you were going to do. It's very tough, but you've got to believe in your own vision and kind of stick to your knitting. And that's where a lot of concepts, I think, go wrong out of the gate. They start listening to their customers for advice and forgetting that they're the ones that are the restaurateur and it's their baby. You're going to raise your baby the way you want to raise the baby. But I faced that with Wingstop from the very beginning, because people would come in and they couldn't believe that it was essentially a one item place. Mm-hmm. A couple of side items, that's it. But, as far as protein, got one thing, mm-hmm. One thing, and it has a bone in it and you're going to love it. But, getting past that. And eventually when the business picks up and people see other people in there, and then people want to be associated with a winner. And then they feel great about making a choice to come and spend their money there.
Yeah. It's amazing, after all these years, there's been a few select items that have been added to the menu, but it's really remained just hyper focused, and I think that that's a big part of what's led to the success that we see with the brand. In my conversations with convenience leaders, there's often conversation around the balancing act that's required where you're talking about kind of quality fresh foods and then the customer's desire to be in and out really fast. And it's interesting because that is something that, as I look at Wingstop and experience Wingstop, you've definitely thought a lot about that. And I'm just I'm curious what's your take on that balance, and how do you kind of look at that quality versus speed?
Well, isn't that funny thing? It's what is it? Good, fast, or cheap? Pick any two. Actually, I don't think something like that. For me, I've been in the restaurant business pretty much my entire life. Food safety is my number one thing, and I would tell my people and train them to understand, listen, what we're doing here is noble work. This is important work. We're selling a product that people are going to put inside their body and share with their children. The number one thing we have to do is this food has to be safe. And because unsafe food, as you know, can be a real problem. And then the second thing, right under safety is we have to figure out a way to make this food where it's delicious and affordable at the same time. There's this thing I believe in: the lower the price, the broader the base, the broader the customer base. If it was like super expensive food, we wouldn't be at 2,500 stores, as you say. But so finding a way to make it affordable, a lot of times is born out of the efficiency that you design into the process. How labor efficient is it? Now labor is a bigger challenge than it's ever been, and more expensive component to the model that it's ever been. So designing a purpose-built kitchen area, utilizing the latest possible in cooking technology, and I've seen some terrific stuff recently that combines different cooking methods and stuff. You have to consider all of that. If I was doing another concept, I would try to travel to the future and see what we can drag back and live it, because the business still has the same challenges. It has to be delicious. It has to be affordable. People want it right now. And that's why I love the business so much, because it's so hard and there's so many moving parts.
Yeah. Well, very interesting. And I like what you say about, if you had your next concept, you'd want to travel to the future and bring it back, because I want to change gears a little bit right now and talk about your business, Buzz Brands, and which, from my perspective, is a bit of kind of going into the future and seeing what it is and bringing it back to today. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about Buzz Brands.
Yeah, started this company with a terrific partner about 2 years ago, knowing really little about the convenience store industry, but knowing that I was starting a company and designing products to be sold in the convenience store world. So everything that we did from the very beginning, from the packaging design and price point, allowing margin for the retailer, putting money in there for the distributor, was designed for the convenience store industry. Buzz Brands is a line of products. We started off with one flagship product, Buck-a-Buzz, which is a pack of 5 gummies that retails for $5. See how that works? Buck-a-Buzz. See what we did there? Cool. $1 for one gummy, right? And then followed that up. That won Best New Product of the Year in Convenience Store News in 23. Followed up the following year with jumping into the intoxicated hemp drink business with Buzz Me Up, which is a functional beverage. I think if I could just get like 1 or 2% of the business Red Bull does every morning as people drive to work and they jump on a Red Bull, if they get a Buzz Me Up instead, I've had plenty of business that way. So we got those. That also was an award-winning product. It's a green tea-based caffeine with 5 milligrams of hemp-derived THC. Getting the convenience store business on board and understand that as alcohol sales decline, you need to replace that revenue with something. And you might need to replace that revenue with something you've never sold before, or something that you thought was taboo, and THC, oh my God, isn't that the stuff that's in marijuana? Well, yeah, actually it is. But this is derived from hemp, legal in most states, was made legal, as you know, Harry, with the passage of the Farm Bill. And at the time, they didn't have the extraction technology that we have today. So we're able to extract pure THC, it's known as Delta 9 THC, from hemp. And that's the intoxicant in all of our products, all 5 of our products.
Wow. So much to learn about here. And, we've seen just a lot of, you mentioned the declines on alcohol, and, there's also in many markets decline in sales towards tobacco, which, typically have been very impactful to convenience store businesses and the metrics around it. We've seen a lot of trending also with younger demographics and older demographics of really higher levels of interest and usage, within these categories. So really interesting. And I was also, that's amazing. You mentioned just the kind of convenience store news awards. That's very cool. That's a big achievement. Are you in stores today, and how did convenience store news kind of hear about this? That seems amazing.
We started reading the trades, so did my partner. When we knew that the convenience stores were our target, we tried to hurry and learn as much about the business as we could. And a good place to start is to read what they read, trade magazines. And they had we saw a little thing where the deadline for entry for product of the year was like in 2 weeks away, right? And we had just started selling the Buck a Buzz gummies, and we were in like 1 or 2 or 3 stores at the time, but you only needed to be in 1 to qualify, need to be in a retail environment. So we entered and we won. I think we won because of variety of reasons, but the quality of the product, the value is unprecedented value. At the time, a 10 milligram THC gummy, they were sold for about $5 each for one, and available only in vape shops and kind of stores that you may or may not want to go into. This idea was designed, the convenience store, the brightly lit, you go in there all day long and get your gas and all that stuff. Why not develop it for that, price it appropriately? $5, people will risk $5 on a new product. They won't risk 20, but they'll risk 5. And lo and behold, it won. And then the following year, the drink won, and then eventually we won the category captain award, which the category originally, this is kind of funny, was CBD. None of our products have no CBD in them, so they changed the name of the category. They made it CBD THC, so we're the category captain of the hybrid category now. So, and we're in about almost 1,000 stores. So I just think we're positioned with the right line of products. Which are kind of like that dog pushing his nose against the screen door, wanting to get out. When the convenience store chains decide it's time to open the screen door, we would have already had our nose up against it, and with a line of branded products that were designed just for them.
So I think you really hit the nail on the head in the sense that convenience stores want to stay relevant. I mean, it's you're in a way swimming in a sea of sameness is a term that is you hear a lot. A lot of stores are carrying the same brands, the same products. How do you get ahead? And I think that's the same thing we talked about with how do you get ahead in the restaurant business? How do you get ahead in the convenience business? By carrying something new and cool that people talk about, like. I guess it's kind of cliche to say buzzworthy, but in the term of, wings, everything, I guess, looking back across your all of your portfolio, even the pizza in the beginning, how did you pick or forecast this is going to be the hot new thing and we're going to just run with it. We're going to stick it and we're going to make sure that everybody wants it. How did you do that? And how do you suggest others do that?
I kind of study human behavior. It's kind of like a hobby. I've always been like that too. I would like just watch people and see kind of what they do and what they like. And as far as the wing business goes, it was that trip to Atlanta when I saw, people buying wings at a place with a taco name that made me got my wheels turning. You may know I was in the pizza business for 32 years, a concept called Pizza Patron that was geared to serve the Hispanic community. You know, almost the business in the stores was conducted in Spanish, and we even made there was a big deal when we started taking Mexican pesos. Here's a guy with a store called Pizza Patron. They speak Spanish in there, and what's going on with this guy? He's not even Hispanic, right? And because there was a spot on the playing field for a concept that focused on the Hispanic customer and knew how to treat that customer respectfully. And they would come in and they would exchange their hard-earned money for a tremendous value hot pizza. And I recognized that was an opportunity. So we talked about focus a little bit. Focus is powerful. You know, when you can focus, the best example I ever read was, you know, we're sitting here and there's sunlight coming in this room and it's beautiful outside, but we could focus that same light and cut metal and be called a laser. And that's the power of focus. And it's true in business too. And knowing when to focus and when to broaden out is I guess that's part of the trick, but having a fascination with human behavior for me personally is kind of how I hit a couple licks.
I have one last question that I have to ask from my loyal listener, son, which I'm stretching loyal listener a lot because, you know, he's 16. He's not listening to mom's podcast, but he asked, may I have your recipe for your secret ranch sauce?
The ranch, huh? Yeah,
the
ranch is a huge hit with Wingstop, and the reason the ranch is so good, one of the reasons is it's made in the store, fresh in small batches, and it was designed that way to use the labor more efficiently, because I needed something for the people that work there to do in between wing orders. And dipping the ranch sauce was one of those jobs you can dip 5 or 10, and because you literally have to fill it up with a ladle and then snap the lids on them and then go work the fryer, shake the wings that you have down if you have, and then go back and do that. So it was designed to be the labor component. And when you have something that gives you a superior product, like only making ranch fresh from fresh buttermilk can do, and it fills in the labor. I call it busy work labor. It was a double win. I had no idea that ranch was going to be a hit. I saw on Instagram the other day, Wingstop had they have a contest. You get free ranch. You could win free ranch for a year, and it was in like this really fancy case, this bottle of ranch, like it was a bottle of expensive liquor or something, or expensive wine. It was cracking me up, but it was designed for labor efficiency, and it's a very, very simple recipe, but I'm not going to tell you.
I didn't expect to be a real cool backstory on that. I'd expect, no, moving on, next question. So thank you for that. That's really cool. Well, in addition to everything, thank you so much, Antonio, for joining us today. Harry flying directly right into his offices to hang out with him and interview him personally. This has been a really great interview. I've certainly learned a lot, and I know our listeners will too, because I really love how you bridged into the convenience in a lot of different ways. So again, thank you for taking your time today. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us. And if you haven't already, take a moment and subscribe so you hear every time one of our new episodes come out. So take care of yourselves, and thank you for listening to The Future of Convenience. You've been listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced, edited, and mixed by Carolyn Schnare, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Learn more at globalconveniencestorefocus.co.uk.